Welcome and good rainy morning here in Phoenix. I am Dave of Urban Astro, and today we're going to continue on with the series that I'm doing about setting up your Mele Quieter 3 PC to run your astronomy rig, or astrophotography rig in this particular case. Today's focus is going to be just on setting up the PC and downloading all the software pieces that we're going to need in order to run our astrophotography rig. There'll be another video where we'll go through and we'll do the installs and just kind of do the initial rough level configurations, and then there probably will be follow-on videos with specific configurations of specific hardware and software pieces, such as like PHD2 and setting up Nina, going through and setting up the configs in Nina. But for right now, this video, which is actually kind of like a part 2 video, is really just setting up the PC so that we can access it and figuring out what software to go download and then downloading that software. And then part 3 will be installing the software, and then part 4 will be individual videos, if you will, on certain particular pieces of software that we need to go in and really spend some time configuring, such as probably, like I said, PHD2 and Nina and maybe Green Swamp Server. And yeah, so if you want to see how to kind of set up your PC so that you can access it, and what kind of configurations and parameters, and if you want to figure out what kind of software you might want to download, then stay tuned. Okay, when you first turn on your Mele Quieter 3 PC, you're going to need to access it through a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. There's just no way to get to it any other way, partly because nothing's been set up on it. Now, the initial Windows 11 setup is pretty standard. You go in, you set up a user account, and then it's going to ask you about keyboard configurations and language and what time zone you're in and all that kind of basic stuff. And you'll get through all that kind of stuff, you know, what Wi-Fi you are using, or if you've got it plugged into Ethernet, what kind of networking, and it's going to prompt you for all that basic, if you will, configuration information, so they can at least serve you a screen and you have some kind of internet access. Now, there's lots of videos out there on how to do that, and I'm not going to spend any time really on that initial configuration setup. It's just standard configuration. If you've ever installed a Windows operating system, then you're very, very familiar with it. If you've ever upgraded from like Windows 7 to Windows 10, it's the same basic kind of questions. So I don't need to spend too much time going through all that. And what I wanted to focus on instead is kind of specific kinds of configurations once you get to this screen in Windows 11 that you need to set up for a remote PC that you're going to use to manage your astrophotography rig. So the first thing you're going to need, of course, is internet access. And you see here I've got my wireless set up. If I click on that, it tells me that I'm connected to my network, which is great. That's what I want. So, and I've got it set up so that it will always connect to my wireless, and I'll show you that in just a minute here. The second thing that I've done is I've gone through every PC, laptop on my home network. We're all part of a home work group, and what that does is that just enables me to do file sharing and printer sharing among assets that are all part of the same work group. And really, it's really easy to kind of set that up. If you've never set up a work group, it's really kind of straightforward. You just need to go to each PC that's going to be part of that work group and add it to a work group. And a work group is whatever you define it to be. So for instance, if I come up here to like this PC and I right mouse button click and I come down here to properties. Now Windows 11 is a little different in that it doesn't show you right off the bat what work group or domain that you're in. It's hidden here. But you see a bunch of other things here that we'll get to here in just a minute. So in this particular case, all of my PCs are added to a work group that I call Cote, C-O-T-E, which is my last name. So if I click on that, you see here that I'm already in a work group. I'm in the work group Cote right there. And what you would do is, if you weren't in a work group, then you just come down here to this button here called Change, and here you can click a work group. You're not going to click domain unless you happen to have a domain server. If you have a domain server and you've got a full-up Windows full-fledged network, then by all means go ahead and click domain. But for most of us who are not running servers, and I'm not running servers, I don't need to. A work group is sufficient. So you can just click on work group, type in what your work group is, and then when you click the OK button, in the same screen you can also change your computer name. So I called this particular little mini PC Newton, just to differentiate it from my Astro PC, which is running on my Astro Tech. And that will always stay with that Astro Tech. So this will always stay with my Newtonian, hence it's called Newton. Just kind of the logic of my thinking. So once you click the OK button, then it will join you to that new work group. You'll have to reboot the system so that it comes back up and is fully a member of that particular work group. And once you've done that, then any file shares that you've set up on any other computer, you can now access. And that's what I've done here. So if I come here into, if I just click on my PC, actually, you'll notice here that I have a file share set up. And it's a file share on my desktop, which is what I'm recording all this on. And I have DSOs, Deep Space Objects. And here's a list of all kinds of different things, configs and logs and current calibration frames. Flat Wizard, if you know Nina puts all of its flats into a directory called Flat Wizard unless you specifically specify it. And then here's all the different objects that either I've captured or I'm planning on capturing. You can see them all here. So in this particular screen, you want to be able to set yourself up for remote access. And what I've done is, because I'm part of a work group here, I can use the same login account across all of my machines. So I don't have to have like a separate login account on each different machine that I normally would have. Now I can share the same user account across machines. And that's pretty much what I've done. So I come down here to Remote Desktop, which is a related setting in this particular version of Windows 11 Pro. And if I click on that, you'll see that it's on. So you have to turn on Remote Desktop in order to be able to use Remote Desktop. And a lot of people will use Google Remote Desktop, or they'll use TeamShare, and there's a few others out there. I've had inconsistent results with all of those. I get great results from using RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. It's what Microsoft's Remote Desktop uses. I get great results with Remote Desktop. Never have any issues. Don't get dropouts. I don't lose the PC. And I used to encounter all those kinds of things with TeamViewer and with Google Chrome Remote Desktop. I just had all kinds of issues. So I always use remote desktop. It's just quick, it's just easy, it's just painless. So basically you're going to set it up and you're going to click on requires devices to use network level authentication, and that's what I mean by joining everything to a work group. You now have network level authentication, and then here of course you can select who has access. Because I already have access, you can see that I'm already listed there because I added myself, and that's what you're going to do is, so you would like add yourself in there, and then you would click OK, and then you would show up in a list here, and then you would click OK here, and you'll be added. And then once you've done that, then basically what ends up happening is on any PC, because you're already logged into that PC, it uses those login credentials to log you into the remote desktop session. You don't have to log in, it just does it automatically, and that's what that network level authentication does for you. Makes it really, really, really easy. And again, if you need any help with setting up remote desktop, there's always the help guide right there that kind of walk you through it. And that's pretty much remote desktop. So once you get remote desktop set up, the only other really issue that you're probably going to come across, you come up here to system, you're going to want to come down here to power. And that's the first issue. So power. What you want to do is, I have sleep, screen and sleep set to never. So when it's plugged in, never turn off my screen. When it's plugged in, put my device to sleep, never put it to sleep. And the power mode is balanced. Let me go ahead and just make that best performance because it doesn't matter. It's coming off of a Powerbox. It can use all the juice and all the power that it needs, and that's fine. So that's how you kind of want your power settings to be set up here. So that's system, power, and then the next thing you're going to want to go to is, you've already activated it, storage, we don't need to go there, is Windows, yeah, over here, Windows Update. That's the other thing. I've had issues with this. Twice now on my other PC, I've been in the middle of doing image acquisition when it would reboot because it downloaded a Windows update, and it did an update in the middle of the night and rebooted the PC, and I lost that session. So what I do here is I set this thing to pause for 4 weeks, and so now updates will not resume until 1/25. And what I do is usually about the middle of the month, I'll go in and I'll update everything. So that way I have updates done when I'm ready to deal with the updates. So those are the two basic things, is the power that's found in system power. Set it so that it doesn't go to sleep. Set it so that it doesn't power off. And then Windows Update, pause it. All right, once you've gotten that done and you've rebooted, you're now ready to figure out what kind of software to install. And I've already put together a list of all the pieces and parts that I think I'm going to need for my system. Now your system is going to be a little bit different based on what equipment that you have. I know right off the bat that I'm going to have to download ASCOM. I know I'm going to have to go out to ZWO and download camera drivers and drivers, if there are any, for filter wheel and focuser. I believe that these use Microsoft's built-in human interface drivers, but I'm not sure, so I'll go out and check. I'll go out to Player One Camera and download the driver for the Player One. I got a Pollmaster, so I'll go out to QHYCCD and I'll download Pollmaster. I'll download Green Swamp server so that I can run my EQ6r Pro mount. I'll download Gemini 2 so I can run the Lost Mandy G11. I'll go out to Pegasus Astro and I'll get drivers for all these different devices. I think everything now is in the Unity driver package, but I'm not sure about that, so I'll go out and just check. Here is my planetarium software, Stellarium. And then ASTAP for plate solving. Then, of course, wrapping everything up with Nina, which is my acquisition control software. So what I'll do is I'll create a directory here on my desktop, just because that's what I do. I put everything on my desktop. So this is going to be software to install. And the first thing, the other thing that I do, just to let you know, is I don't like Microsoft Edge, so I install Google Chrome, and every time I boot up, Microsoft begs me to go ahead and go back to Edge, and I just don't like Edge, so I don't load Edge, and I run Chrome. Your mileage may differ, and that's fine. That's just what it is. So I'm going to go here. So let's go to ASCOM. ASCOM platform, standards for astronomy. And we are at platform 6, service pack 1. 6.6 service pack 1. So I'm going to go to download. And it's going to download this. And I'm just going to say, well, you know what? I'll just leave it there. Well, let me go show in folder. Oh, there we go. So let's go ahead and move. Where's my file? Where's my folder? There we go. Software to install. No. No. Move ASCOM there. Okay. You can see I've already gone through and made sure that I could download everything, but everything is not current, so I'm just going to go ahead and just delete all that because it's not current. Okay, so we've got ASCOM. As you will quickly note in this world of software is that things change very, very quickly. So I got ASCOM. Now I am going to do one thing that I don't have on my list here, and that is I'm going to go to the drivers and downloads, and I'm going to go to safety monitor right here. And I'm just going to download environmental safety monitor. And what this does is this basically triggers a safe or unsafe condition based on weather observations. And I can set this up to go out to open weather, and it can basically stop my imaging session if things go to an unsafe condition, which means cloud cover, presence of rain or threat of rain, and all that kind of jazz. So we'll just go ahead and just download that, just to download it. Now we go out to ZWO. So Google. I'm walking you through this just like I would do this. ZWO ASCOM drivers, software and drivers, astronomy-imaging-camera.com. Okay, I've got Windows. So ASI camera. So I'm going to download that puppy. And like I suspected, the electronic filter wheel and the EAF, they are USB human interface devices, so they don't need a native driver. Windows has that native driver, so we're good there. So I'm just going to put that there. I like to download, believe it or not, ASI Studio, and it's so that I can look at FITS files. That's the only reason that I download it. I don't use it for anything else, but it has a FITS file viewer, so you can view FITS. If you don't have it up in your imaging window and you just want to look at some FITS files, which is the format that all of our subs come down in, is FITS, FITS, then you're able to view it. So that's what I install that for. Is there anything else we need? I've already got ASCOM. Here's the ASCOM driver to support ASI cameras, EAF, electronic filter wheel. So we're going to download that. And because this thing is 64-bit, I can just download the 64-bit version. So there we go. Okay. So we've got everything for ZWO. And now I'm going to go to player one, camera. Where am I going to go? Service, drivers, and software. Camera driver. So this is the native camera driver, which we're going to install. Then we're going to do the ASCOM. Camera driver ASCOM. Okay. So we're going to download the camera, because that's all I've got is that camera. So let me go ahead and move that over here. And there's the ASCOM driver for that. Okay. So we got that. Go back. Now we go to QHYCCD Master drivers. And I use Pollmaster so that I can so it doesn't have Pollmaster on that one, so I want Pollmaster support. So here's Pollmaster. So I'm going to need a system driver. So download the Pollmaster driver, and then download the software to actually run it. So that's the Pollmaster driver. It's being slow today. Okay, let me try historic version. Okay, well, none of those links are working, thanks to Pollmaster, but that's all right. I think I've got copies of them someplace else anyways. And it's not critical to running the astrophotography rig because I already have Pollmaster set up on my laptop, which I always bring out to start my sessions. Okay, Green Swamp server. Green Swamp server. Now I use Green Swamp server rather than EQ mod. I have been using EQ mod for a couple of years, and I have moved to Green Swamp server only because there were some questions about support in Windows 11 for EQ mod, and even though they keep it fairly up to date, I just wanted to try something different, and so I've moved over to Green Swamp server, and I've had no problems, no issues with it. In fact, I love it. There we go. That's the one that I want. I've heard some interesting things about the beta, so right now we'll just stick with 1.0.4.6, and there we go. Green Swamp server has built-in ASCOM drivers, which makes it nice. Okay, Green Swamp server can be a little confusing. So Gemini 2 main. Let's go to Gemini 2. Okay. It's a little confusing. You go to ASCOM USB, ASCOM related, ASCOM Gemini Net installer. And this is what we want. This is the latest stable release. There is a beta version that they're actually working on, and I have Gemini 2 level 5 right now, which is what I've got, and level 6 is in beta, which is also the beta for this guy here, the beta here, 1.1.13, is for the level 6, Gemini 2 level 6 beta. So we're just going to have to be satisfied with this one for right now. And that's for the G11 mount that I have. So we'll go back. And we go to Pegasus Astro. Unity, download. Okay. All new round is Unity platform, and I believe that it comes, yeah, all required ASCOM drivers come with Unity platform, which makes it really kind of nice. I can just download the platform and it will have the drivers for all the power boxes that I've got, for the Rotator, for the Flatmaster that I use, and for the Uranus Metro station, which is good. So it's one-stop shop. And here's separate drivers for all these other devices and pieces. So there's my Pegasus Astro Unity platform. Put that puppy over there. And then I use Stellarium. Latest version is 1.2. Okay. And I want 1.2 for 64-bit. Okay. Do that there. And then we'll go download ASTAP. I could spell. ASTAP is used for plate solving. Astromag. It actually can stack, but we use it for essentially, Nina uses it for plate solving. So there it is. Let's go back here because we want large. There's a wide field. These are different databases, okay, that ASTAP can tap into when it does plate solving. So I'm going to go to the large star database, and it will start shortly here. And it's a pretty big file. It's almost a gig. It's 931. And I'll also do the wide field star database because the 80 millimeter is pretty wide field. So I just do both of those databases. And the wide field is pretty small. You can see here it's already downloaded. So I'll move that over here. And then we'll wait for this guy here. We still have a ways to go. So let me open up a new one. We can go ahead and get Nina downloaded. So I'll go into Nina Astronomy. Let's go to download. And we want version 2.1. I'm actually going to download this version 2.1 hotfix 1 beta 5. I happen to be running it on my other scope and it runs just fine. And for a while there, I mean, we were having betas like once a week. You'd get a beta coming down, and so when they're in a development cycle, they are in a development cycle. PhD2, which I don't have on here. PhD2. I do not have on here. I knew I forgot something. I was racking my brain. So let's go to PhD2. There's always something. Okay. I don't want a development snapshot, or do I? No. Let's just download 2.6.11. There we go. Can't believe I forgot PhD2. So there we go. So that's my software list. Your software list may look a little bit different, and that's okay, but that is my software list. And next video, we'll actually go through and do a base installation of all these, just so you can see what it looks like. And then we'll have follow-on videos for very specific software packages. So sorry this video has been so long, but that's the nature of this kind of thing. This takes a little while. This is, and I apologize your time. I apologize for the time, and I appreciate your time. So if you found any of this to be of any kind of interest or useful or anything like that, please go ahead and click the subscribe button down below, and click the notification icon so that next time I put out a video, you'll be notified. And until next time, clear skies and happy guiding.